they'll be dry. So I always water from the bottom up. So Pulsatilla, or however you pronounce it, the prairie crocus, Pulsatilla, I don't have much luck with because, as an example, because it's something that's drought tolerant, and I tend to add too much water for it. But most stuff I have lots of luck with. You see these here, I use the lasagna. Everybody says to me, "Oh, you're making a lot of lasagna." These will fit 12 of these, or 6 of this size. And I water from the bottom up because I find that if you water, you're not adding enough water for a growing plant if you're just using that spritzer. And if you use, it's got to have a very fine spray to water a small seedling from above. You'll drown it. So I tend to water from the bottom up.
Even with the seeds?
No, the seeds are okay, the seedlings. Yeah.
Okay, with your pan, how deep do you put the water when you put it in?
I count to 12. Only probably about that deep. And I hardly ever water. You see, that's the thing. You know, I probably only water once a month. For these little things, I would probably only be watering once a month.
Really?
Yeah. At this time of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they're not, these because they are not on a heating pad now.
Right.
So because they're not on a heating pad and not in a heated greenhouse, unless it gets really, really hot during the day, they're not drying out. So you've got to keep an eye on them, but you don't need to water frequently. And if you have a look at these later on, that's getting pretty light. So, you know, it probably could do with the water.
That from seed?
Yeah, these were all grown from seed. I just bought you the stuff I bought from seed. Yeah, see that one, this was outside. This one, I should have said, is pretty light. So it needs the water now. But I don't water very often at all. You'll just get mold if you water too quickly.
How long have you been growing that?
That's a couple of years old. Yeah. Now, when you're sowing the seed, you've got to be careful that you either look at the label or look at your reference as to how you're going to grow that seed. Some like to be covered, some don't like to be covered. As I said, some don't like bottom heat. Some have to be stratified, put in the fridge for 6 weeks or whatever. And once I find that New Zealand tree seed one, I'll show you where it's got the stratification and everything. I find they're better to grow in a cooler room, like the unheated greenhouse, rather than too warm a room. So try and pick one that's cooler. What I do is, if it needs, now for sowing the seeds, I use this one here, which is the germination mix, number 3, and I'll pass it around so you can feel it. But if you're going to plant them in, say, October, and they're going to be in an unheated greenhouse and they're okay to cover, put some fine chicken grit on top. And that will prevent the mold as well. And that's it there. I'll pass it around so you can see it.
When you talk about mold, you talk about that algae that you get?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is this called?
This is it's right in here. It's number 3 mix.
So that's sunshine number 3?
Sunshine number 3. Here, sterile germinating. Sunshine number 3 germinating mix. Okay, so that's what I use for my seeds. Then, as Frida said, always label your seeds. So, label them. I label them with a HB pencil because I'm cheap, and when I'm, finished, I can rub that out and wash it and use it again.
The best.
Yeah.
Because ink will just
Yeah.
Yeah, this lasts, I mean, this would be at least a couple of years old, and that's lasting fine outside all the time. So make sure you label them well when you label them. And as Frida says, get the soil damp, not wet. I would say I have mine wet, and that's why I have a little trouble with ones that are drought resistant, drought tolerant, I should say. But other than that, I don't have very many corpses. So and then put them aside and let them germinate. Now check them daily. And as you can see, where's my little black book? Those peppers and tomatoes were planted, and always keep a little black book. And the little black book says where you got the seeds from, and I tick them if they've germinated. February the 7th, I planted these. So if you come up afterwards and have a look, you'll see they're already germinating. And so those were planted on February the 7th. And those had bottom heat, and the peppers and the tomatoes.
And top light?
Top light. Yeah. Yeah.
What soil did you use?
No, they're these here.
Oh, so that's
The soil's in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, some of the other ones that I planted, such as leeks, I planted them using the number 3 mix and just put them in a container like this.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how I plant them because they're easy to separate, you know. And so what I planted already inside, just to give you an idea, as far as veggies are concerned, I did a zillion different varieties of tomatoes. I did sweet pepper from a collection from Full Circle Seeds. I tried a new tomato called Andrew Rahat Jumbo Red, which they're not doing any longer. Cape gooseberry, parsley, broccoli, red cabbage. That I germinated just sowed this week, and my last year's red cabbage, we'll have it tonight out of the garden today. Okay, celery. And then Louise gave me some St. Victor's leeks from Full Circle Seeds. So those other than the tomatoes and the peppers, I planted them in this size pot, sowed them in this size pot, but with that number 3 mix. Then once they've germinated and you've got some decent leaves on them, I prick them out and I put them in this size. So these are poppies, and these are in this size pot. And to prick them out, I always use these. Your gardening gloves are too thick, and you'll wreck the little seedlings. And these are really, really good because you can get them at a plastics place. You can get them as a whole box full, but don't leave them in your greenhouse as I did one year because they'll melt in the summer. And so they're easy to put on, and you can feel the seedlings. And then when you prick them out, I empty the whole pot into a container and sort of gradually put them apart, but then hold them up here. Don't hold them by the stem. Never hold them by the stem. You'll squeeze the stem, and once you squeeze the stem, they've gone. If you break a leaf, it doesn't matter. It'll grow another leaf as long as it's got one. Okay? Then when these grow too big, and they'll start having roots coming out the bottom, I put them into this size pot, and then they go into this size. Now, when I pot them up into this size pot, I use a third sterilized potting mix, and it's all down here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, third sterilized potting mix, potting up.
Yeah.
A third perlite and a third peat. And I learned that from either the Master Gardener course or someone who came and talked to the Master Gardeners. And I've found that it works really well for me. But these, of course, have not had any fertilizer up to this stage of the game. So I mix my own fertilizer. That's the mix. That's the third.
So you don't use vermiculite,
I use perlite.
but not vermiculite?
No.
Not the two, just
No.
perlite.
Yeah. Now that's the Murray Mix fertilizer. It is regarded as organic unless you're an absolute purist because it's got canola meal. And canola meal is genetically modified. You can't buy canola that's not genetically modified. So if you're a purist and don't believe in genetically modified organisms, that mix wouldn't be any good for you. But other than that,
Well, the
I
blood meal
use it.
is an issue too, unless you get pig's blood.
yeah. Well, I've understood in Canada it's okay. In the States it's not. And the same for bone meal. That it's much more heavily regulated in Canada than in the States. Now, I don't know where I heard that. So,
Regulated
but
for
that's what I
what?
heard.
Regulated for what?
Well, that was when things
Mad
like
cow.
Mad cow.
Mad Cow and
Yeah,
everything
which
was coming out.
Isn't really blood.
Blood meal is blood.
Blood meal is blood, yeah.
Yeah.
But the disease isn't in the blood.
No, but it's stem cell, and
The pre-
some of the bone meal use the spinal cord and whatnot. Is my understanding. I don't know, but I swear by that fertilizer.
And that's this one here?
That's that one there.
Yeah.
And I buy it in bulk, or the ingredients in bulk from Barker Fields and
Yeah.
just mix it myself.
Can you
Yeah.
give us the name again?
Beg your
The
pardon?
name again is
It's called the Murray Mix, and I've got
Mary Mix.
Murray, Murray.
Murray.
Yeah, yes, Murray.
This is for the sake of the public.
And it's after Mr. Murray.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And but I put some of that in my mix when I pot these up because they haven't had any fertilizer at that stage of the game. Now, Frieder had talked about fish fertilizer, liquid fish fertilizer. That's another one that you can use if you'd prefer not to use that one. But I just find this really useful. And once they get to this stage, they don't need bottom heat any longer, but you do need to give them enough light. It's really important that they get enough light, and you keep a check on them, and they're getting enough water. Now,
So
when I
you
talk,
mean with those wouldn't be under your lights
no,
anymore? though,
they're
but
on
they
the
would be-
shelves by the
yeah,
window.
where
Yeah.
you get normal light.
Yeah, and so I've bought this for you on purpose because this is agapanthus that is germinating, and you'll see it's got two white ones because I had forgotten to put them under the lights when they started to germinate. So that shows you quite clearly where you need the light. He wants you
So
to
that's
touch
Yeah,
it.
just
interesting that
tilt
you
it
can
for
grow
me.
agapanthus because it's a definitely drought tolerant plant.
I can grow agapanthus really well.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's an agapanthus I grew from seed last year. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So
feel
I
like you're all by yourself.
Yeah. So I don't. Oh yeah, you haven't been getting these. So I don't have too many failures, but you do have failures, and you do have corpses, and you work out, and then always pot them up. You know, as they get bigger, pot them up into these, then pot them up into this. And then finally into this. Don't let them get too big. I usually allow these to have the roots coming out the bottom. So I know it's got a good stock of roots before I plant it up next. Now, as far as references are concerned, I brought you the references that I use. There's two general, and I know there are some other books here. There's two general. Am I that boring? Yeah. There's two general, and I've listed them all on your handout. There's two general ones there that I've found really, really useful. And then this one is a good one for flowers. Okay, this is the Gardening A to Z for growing flowers from seed to bloom. It gives you the type, the zone, the flowering season, when to grow it indoors or outdoors, how deep, how long it's going to take to germinate, how to transplant it, how to care for it, and how to propagate it. So that's a really good one for flowers. This is an excellent one for vegetables, collecting your own seeds and growing vegetables from seeds. And then this one here is the Royal Horticultural Society Harvested Seed Germination. Again, excellent chart.
I like charts.
Yeah, really excellent.
Where would you get that?
Royal Horticultural Society. Yeah, yeah. So
Online?
yeah. So I'll pass those around. And then, as far as access to seeds, and as I said, somewhere here, we sort of moved stuff, and I don't know what I've done with it now, but I do have one on New Zealand tree seeds. But I've got you the website for New Zealand tree seeds anyhow, and that will tell you any that you buy from them exactly how to germinate them. Now on the seed sources, I've got some seed sources written down for you, but some of you have got other ones. This is West Coast Seeds, and this has the best chart in it on what to sow when, and to sow it inside or outside. It's an excellent chart, and I use that one as my Bible for seeds for this area.
If you're going over to the Lower Mainland, I went into their new shop last week in Ladner, and it's fabulous. They've got all kinds of things right in the centre of Ladner. It's well worth going in. And I did prime them to the fact that we're having another conference.
Good.
I said I would be back for a gift basket.
Yeah, and we used the basket for the winner of the bean count last time. Now, two of the seeds that I bring in from Britain are Chiltern Seeds and Plant World. So those two there, I'll pass these around. This one here is Primroses. This is from France. And this is an excellent source of unusual, different types of primroses.
Have you given that one to Sam? Ever?
Yes, she knows about it. Yeah.
Good.
If you belong to the Alpine Garden Club of British Columbia, your membership entitles you to a seed exchange. If you don't provide seeds, you can get 30 seeds. If you provide seeds, you can get 60. And you can see here the list of different seeds that they have each year. And so that's a good source. You've got the full circle seeds one. I've got you the website for Salt Spring Island seeds, and I've also got you the one for New Zealand tree seeds. And as I said, I took off the page on example on how to treat the seeds, but I don't know where it's gone. But if you just go on the website, you'll see they have a very wide selection of seeds. Now the other one that I bring in is the Delphinium, which I didn't have down for you. They're the Millennium series, which are supposed to be far superior to the Pacific Giant because they have a thicker stem. So that's a good source of seeds for you. And they do give excellent... Oh, and there was another one I've given you here is Gardens North. Gardens North seeds are in Annapolis Royal in Nova Scotia, and I've got those written down for you. They used to be on Third Line Road in North Gore. We used to live on Third Line Road in North Gore. And they're an excellent source for hardy plants. And when you get the seeds from them, their seed packets are very explicit about how to handle the seeds in order to get a good germination. So you really get a lot of good information off that. So that's sort of my experience on how to handle the seeds. But everybody else has more, and there's some more books here.